Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our podcast, Bharat and Geopolitics, where we embark on a journey to explore the profound implications of India's defense indigenization on the world stage. In today's episode, we unravel the strategic shifts, geopolitical influences, and global ripple effects as India charts its course towards self-reliance in defense. Join me in extending a warm welcome to Dr. Adityanjee, whose expertise promises to illuminate the transformative journey India is undertaking in shaping the future of international relations. Dr. Adityanjee is the President of the Council for Strategic Affairs. You can visit his website, thecouncilforstrategicaffairs.org, and learn more about his organization. And also watch highly enlightening videos on geopolitics and keep yourself updated with global events. So welcome Dr. Adityanjee, welcome to our platform.
Thank you, Hari Prakash ji, for inviting me again on your platform. Thank you very much indeed. It's always a pleasure to come and talk to you.
So without further ado, let's dive into the enlightening discussion. Coming to the topic, how India's defense indigenization impacts global geopolitical dynamics. So that is the topic for today. And just to give you a brief background, India's defense indigenization, which should have started 30-40 years ago, has gained momentum lately. The nation highly appreciates the government's move, but I don't think it goes well with the major arms exporter countries like Russia, because this will considerably affect their economy. So, Dr. Adityanjee, with this background, I am coming to you with my first question. How do you think Russia will react to India's decision? Mr. Putin can't say anything directly, but the loss of business must be a point of concern for Russians. So, what do you say about it?
I think we have to see this question in light of overall India-Russia relationship. And by and large, over the decade since 1947, India-USSR relationship and after breakdown of Soviet Union, India-Russian relationships have been by and large okay, except for the decade when Boris Yeltsin was in power. At that time, there was nosediving of the bilateral relationship. Traditionally, Russia or former Soviet Union had been the major arms supplier for India, or Bharat as we say now. There was a time Soviet Union or its successor state supplied almost 90% of Bharat's defense acquisition. Over the period of time, it has come down to only 45.1% now. It may still be a substantial chunk, but it has already come down. And the reason for it is diversification of arms and defense acquisition on part of Bharat. So in last 20 years, we have seen other arms suppliers come and supply arms to Bharat. After Russia, the next major arms supplier to Bharat is actually France, 28%. We are purchasing Rafales from them. We have purchased Mirage jet fighters from them in the past. We have purchased submarines, diesel-powered submarines from them. So that is the second supplier. And astonishingly, the third major supplier is currently United States, which captures around 11.1% of India's arms acquisition. And over the last 20 years, Bharat has purchased more than $20 billion of arms from the United States. The next is actually Israel. Israel supplies 7.7% of Bharat's defense acquisition. And then you have countries like South Korea around 2.8% and UK that used to be one of the traditional suppliers only at 2%. So with changing geopolitics, all these equations change. I don't think Russia is going to be upset about India diversifying. I think they understand. Just like United States understands that India has its options, Bharat has her options to purchase equipment wherever they find the cheapest and the best option. There was a problem with Russian equipment. You know the whole story of MiG-21s. They were being labeled as flying coffins. Young pilots were dying in those. There were times when the Russian technology was not up to date. And to be limited to just one source is not good. So diversification was good. And post diversification came the decision to become self-reliant. No country in the world can ever become a superpower without having its own military industrial complex, without being self-reliant. Luckily, Bharat hasn't had any major war recently. But from the past, the experience is that, after a few days, the supplies, they dwindle. You have to purchase spare parts, you have to purchase new equipment.
Yeah,
And during time of crisis, you don't want to be reliant on outside powers.
yeah, yeah.
In that sense, the decision to start indigenous military industrial complex is good. And I think Russia would understand it. They are in a very good situation right now because at least in last 2 years, India has purchased a lot of oil and natural gas from Russia, despite Western sanctions. Bilateral trade with Russia is increasing. In 2022, it was around $35 billion. And in this year, it has already been $50 billion and above. And in 2024, it will be much higher. And again, to our dismay, it remains in Russia's favor because we are buying energy in bulk from Russia. We are also buying 45% of our defense acquisition from Russia. So there's no reason for Putin to be upset about it. They have to get used to it. Bharat is a sovereign nation. It's a sovereign decision where to buy equipment from, whether to purchase or whether to manufacture your own arms industry. But in the long run, it makes sense to not only develop your own military industrial complex that supplies to your own armed forces, but also be a part of the arms exporting nation, which India is becoming now, although the share is very small.
So actually, my point was India's diversification of defense equipment imports severely affects Russia's business. So, like once you pointed out in another discussion that Russia is trying to create a different group with Iran, Pakistan, and China, other nations, against India actually, because there was a big loss of business for Russians actually. So it was going against India. So with the India diversification, they are losing business actually because India has been there the biggest customer, as I think, for a long time. So if India compensates the loss of business to Russians actually, will the Russians be okay with it? Or will they still would like to have the India as the a major importer of their arms?
So, geopolitics is very complex. Yes, almost 2.5 years ago, Russians were trying to diversify their arms export to Pakistan.
Yeah.
Now, they have traditionally sold equipment to China. They have very strong relationship with Iran. And in fact, what you are referring to is an acronym I had coined.
Yeah.
When the Quad was resuscitated for the third time, quadrilateral security dialogue involving Bharat, Japan, Australia, and United States. Russia was a little bit miffed. So they were trying to create an alternate quad of PRIC, that was Pakistan, Russia, Iran, and China. Now, individually, Russia has good relations with Iran as well as with China. The relationship with Pakistan was very, very ambivalent because of Pakistan's role in Afghanistan war and other issues. And Russia did try to improve the relationship. They wanted to start a pipeline through Pakistan, north-south pipeline, gas pipeline. And there was some talk of sale of some helicopters. In the past, they gave deference to Bharat's viewpoint about Pakistan. But during that time, Russia was kind of driven to perceive this new emergence of Quad and India's participation in that as possibly not very friendly yet. Having said that, now in last 2.5 years, situation has changed since Russia invaded Ukraine and this war is going on. There is a different geopolitical situation in which India has not outrightly condemned Russia. India has taken a very principalistic stand that war is not the way to deal with current conflicts, dialogue is the way. But on the other hand, has not put Russia on the map, and India did not heed to Western appeals for sanctions, financial sanctions on Russia.
Yeah.
So on one hand, India is still purchasing S-400 missiles defense battery from Russia, which is a substantial contract. 2 missile batteries have already been delivered and have been, sort of fixed kind of thing, or sort of established with Indian armed forces. 2 more batteries are yet to be delivered, and Russia is showing delay because of their preoccupation with the war. But I think Russia is happy as the bilateral trade is increasing. India is not, condemning them for the invasion or war in Ukraine. India is continuing to purchase energy from them because it is cheaper. So they are getting some revenue, and there is some diplomatic support being offered by not, voting against Russia, either abstaining in United Nations Security Council or in the General Assembly on the relevant issues. So situation has changed, and the recent visit by Dr. S. Jaishankar, it was a 5-day visit to Russia from December 24th to December 29th. It was a very successful visit in which President Putin, who usually does not receive visiting foreign ministers, had a bilateral meeting with Dr. Jaishankar.
Yeah.
And was very effusive in praise of India and of India's Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, and also publicly invited Mr. Modi to visit Russia in 2024. Also, during that particular bilateral visits, a number of proposals were finalized, bilateral proposals. One of them was actually building 2 more nuclear power units in Kudankulam nuclear power plant in Tamil Nadu, and also a joint proposal for arms production in Bharat.
Yeah.
Whether for use in Bharat or for export to third country or for use in Russia. So that was a novel proposal. So all countries look at their interests. They don't get stuck in the past. They don't look at, just one-time advantage. And I think Russia has moved beyond what was happening in 2021 and 2020.
So I am coming to with one impromptu question. The India just stand that war is not solution to any problem in today's world. What do you think? This is just an excuse and making most of the current scenario, I mean the Russia-Ukraine war, or this is the real thought of India's leadership or India's stand?
I think as far as Russia-India relationship is concerned, it was one, a reminder to Russia that, you know, an endless war is not the solution. You still have to negotiate on the table.
Yeah, yes,
There are casualties on both the sides. There are international repercussions in terms of food prices and, stopping the grain procurement for African countries and things like that. So there are, downstream consequences. I don't think it was just lip service or just for sake of audience. This was a an important statement made by the Prime Minister live, I think, in a SCO meeting in Russia itself last year. So it had its audience, not just President Putin, but also the entire international community, having taken a neutral stance in United Nations Security Council and UN General Assembly. Bharat was still saying that war is not the solution. You have to come to the dialogue on the table, discuss the issues rather than do mindless destruction. But on the other hand, it was a very nice balancing
yes,
Russia versus Ukraine, because we have had issues with Ukraine also. Ukraine has not been just a friendly nation. There have been issues there.
yeah, right.
Ukraine has been exporting arms to Pakistan. Ukraine's treatment of Bharatiya students as the war broke down was highly racist. Some of the students were maltreated. Ukraine has voted against Bharat in United Nations Security Council, including at the time of 1998 Pokhran 2 nuclear explosion. So you have to look at the track record of each country and then decide what are the national interests. But I think the trajectory of Bharat-Russia relationship is on the mend. It's in the right direction. There may be some minor irritants here and there. I mean, for Russia, the irritant may be proportionate reduction in arms sales, but from India's side, I can rattle to you what have been the irritants. I've said in the past also. Remember, since 2007, India and Russia, there was a proposal for joint production of fifth generation fighter aircraft,
Yes,
Su-57, and India sunk $6 billion of money into that project, and there's no return on that. There's no outcome on that because Russia was taking the money but not sharing the advancements with Indian government or Indian parties involved in that transaction. So seemingly that project has been shelved. And yes, what happened to that money? That is a logical question.
yeah,
Also, I will go back a little bit further to the history. If you talk about what issues we have had with Russia, rupee ruble trade, Russia holds quite a lot of rupees, but is not willing to buy the energy in rupees. They want India to pay either in dollar terms that will invite financial sanctions, or use the Chinese currency of renminbi like yuan, which does not help India. So they need to come to their senses and, devise ways in which rupee ruble trade can happen. They need to buy consumer goods from India in rupee terms so they can use their rupees. So that is a point of irritant with Russia. And remember the purchase of Indian aircraft carrier Vikramaditya, INS Vikramaditya. When the initial negotiations were held, Russia at that time said that we will sell it to you for 1 rupee. Cost is only that of refurbishing, and the initial estimate of refurbishing cost was only $400 million, and it would have been, deployed and delivered to Bharat in, I think, 2010 or 2011, and there were continuous cost overruns and delays in delivery. Ultimate cost was of refurbishing alone was $2.35 billion. And the total cost was around $12 billion if you see the fighter jets and helicopters and other systems imported for that. So that was a massive cost overrun on part of Russia, knowing that you held the advantageous position, because if you scrap the deal, you lose your money.
Yeah.
So each country has to look for its own interests and get adjusted to the situation. And I'm pretty sure Russia will get adjusted to the situation where Bharat is procuring defense equipment from wherever you get the best deal, not just in terms of price, but also in terms of technology. And, you also need to develop your own arms industry, because in
Right.
the long run, that is what every major power does.
That's the only answer. Even Mrs. Indira Gandhi started this, but there was not much work on the ground actually. This was only a hype. So thank you so much for your answer. Actually, I am moving to my second question. Which countries can be the potential allies for defense collaboration? Because China is our arch rival.
Well, we have already talked in detail about Russia. We have produced weapons under license production at HAL. MiGs were assembled, so were Sukhoi. Uh, you know, we have now this agreement with France about Rafale being locally assembled and some 30% offset. So we have had collaborations with a number of countries. We have had collaboration with UK in the past. Uh, you know, in almost all these collaborations, no country wants to share with you the latest or the topmost technology. And the same thing is with US. US was made with Bharat that we purchased S-400, missile, ballistic missile shields from Russia, and did not purchase the Patriot, missile defense system from United States. But if you look, Patriot system is much more expensive and technologically less advanced from S-400. So again, United States was willing to offer F-16 production line to Bharat if we purchase those planes, but they are already outdated. So why would you purchase those planes that are outdated and your main rival, Pakistan, already has them, most latest version? In fact, United States gave $400 million sustainment package to Pakistan last year so that they can upgrade their F-16. So why would you do that? So these are the possible defense collaborations, but ultimately you have to go for your own. And, developing Tejas, MK1, MK1A, and MK2 versions, I think is the step in the right direction. The Arjun battle tank, the main battle tank, although it is a version of the former German Leopold battle tank or based on that prototype, or what we are doing is in terms of ATV project, that is actually manufacturing SSBNs, nuclear powered SSBNs in Bharat. We already have almost 3 done, Arihant, Arighat, and there's a third one which is undergoing sea trials. Also, we have a very flourishing aircraft carrier, construction domestic industry. So the third aircraft carrier is being designed for a cost of $5 billion, after the INS Vikramaditya that we purchased from Russia. The second Vikrant was indigenously designed. It's a 45,000 ton aircraft carrier that can hold 28 fighter planes on its deck. So the third one is also almost the same size. So we have ongoing defense collaborations with various countries, but ultimately the extent of indigenization in each project is increasing. In fact, in the Vikrant aircraft carrier construction, 70% component was of Indian origin. Technologies are being shared by DRDO with private Indian companies who are cooperating and delivering equipments, parts, materials to the shipyards and docks or HAL. So we are moving in a very different direction. But as far as collaboration is concerned, part of all these deals is that local manufacture. And sometimes other countries are not willing to do that. United States, in recent visit of Prime Minister in June of 2023, agreed to give some GE jet engines to Bharat for use in Tejas. I think previous one was 404 and then 414 version, but the most powerful jet engines they are still not willing to sell to Bharat.
Yeah.
That is the limitation, and again, it should be a lesson for learning. You need to improvise, develop your own technologies, like you have done in the field of nuclear arms.
Yeah.
Solely indigenous nuclear weapon systems.
Yeah.
Agni series of missiles, solely indigenous weapon system, despite heavy sanctions from United States.
Mhm.
At a time when Russia, the successor state under Boris Yeltsin, was not willing to share the cryogenic engine technology
Mhm.
with Bharat in 1990s,
Mhm.
ahead and developed our own. So Agni series is pretty much entirely indigenously designed and manufactured.
Yeah. Yeah.
That should be the goal rather than relying on other countries forever.
Mhm.
We have very good technological collaboration with a very tiny country called Israel in a lot of defense systems. So, yes, there are positive collaborations going on.
Yeah, so that was on my mind because I thought Japan, South Korea, and Israel can be a very potential collaborators for the defense equipment development. But my
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yes, please.
I agree. As I said, Israel's share of India's acquisition is around 7.7%. South Korea's is 2.8%. We are not purchasing anything from Japan in bulk or whatever, but they can be actually export to Japan. I have talked about it in the past that we
Yeah.
have now technological expertise to design and build and construct from scratch 45,000-ton aircraft carriers. Japan used to have that technology prior to Second World War and under American occupation and American regime of sanctions, defense sanctions, where Japanese defense forces were not allowed to have offensive capability, that program was shelved. Now Japan has helicopter carriers, Kaga and all that sort of thing, which is only 28,000-ton displacement capacity. So we are in a situation that we can collaborate with Japan and sell them aircraft carrier, just like we used to buy from UK or Soviet Union or Russia. We are in a situation, if we are savvy enough to develop collaboration and export, you know, an aircraft carrier to Japan, or for that matter to South Korea, while we are importing certain technologies from them.
Yeah, right, right, right. Yeah, thank you, sir. So thank you so much. Thank you here. Please stay tuned. We are coming back again. Thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.